When I last spoke about my rich neighbor, I shared how he first piqued my curiosity, not with flashy cars or expensive clothes, but with the way he approached life differently. Most of us are taught to chase money, to hustle endlessly, believing that time is money. But he showed me that the real secret isn't how much you earn, it's how wisely you use what you have. And what I learned from him before I turned 25 changed everything about how I see wealth, success, and even failure. It all started with a simple question he asked me one evening. I had gone over to deliver some documents he had requested, and as I stood at the threshold of his home, he looked at me with those calm eyes of his and asked, "Do you know why most people never get rich?" I shrugged, unsure how to answer. "It's not because they don't work hard," he said, leaning back in his chair. "It's because they work hard for the wrong things." That night, he taught me my first real lesson. Financial literacy is more important than just working hard. He explained that most people spend their entire lives trading time for money. They wake up, go to a job, come home, and repeat, never thinking about how to make their money work for them. He didn't just tell me this, he showed me, through his own life. For instance, he invited me to see his investments, not the stock certificates or bond portfolios that you read about online, but tangible businesses, properties, and projects he owned. I remember one property in particular, a small apartment complex he had bought 10 years earlier. At the time, it seemed like a modest investment, but today it generated more passive income than I was likely to make in years of working a full-time job. "See this," he said with a smile. "Most people would spend their time fixing their car, their phone, or buying a new TV. But this one building makes me money while I sleep." I realized that building assets, not liabilities, is what sets wealthy people apart. The second lesson came unexpectedly, in a conversation about habits. One morning, I saw him jogging at 5 a.m., which was strange because he had no physical job demanding stamina. Curious, I asked why he pushed himself so hard, even at that hour. He stopped, wiped his forehead, and said, "Discipline beats motivation." Every single time. He explained that success wasn't about sudden bursts of energy or luck. It was about small, consistent actions that compound over time. Saving money, learning new skills, networking intentionally, and even reading consistently. He did all of these, not for immediate gratification, but for long-term growth. That day, he handed me a notebook. "Start tracking your life," he said. "Write down every hour, every dollar, every lesson you learn. You'll be surprised how much you waste without noticing." I did as he suggested, and the results were shocking. I realized how much time I spent on social media, how often I ignored opportunities, and how little thought I gave to my financial choices. The act of writing things down made me accountable, and it was his second golden rule: awareness is the first step to change. The third lesson was harder to swallow. One evening, as we were having tea, he asked me about my failures. I felt awkward. Most people avoid talking about failure like it's contagious, but he insisted. "Do you know why I failed at 3 businesses before this one succeeded?" he asked. I shook my head, curious. "Because I treated failure like a defeat instead of a teacher," he said. "Every mistake I made was a lesson. Every loss taught me something I couldn't have learned otherwise. If you're afraid to fail, you'll never grow." That hit me hard. I had always avoided risks, afraid of messing up, afraid of looking foolish. But here was someone telling me that failure was not just inevitable, it was essential. From that day on, I started approaching challenges differently. Instead of fearing failure, I began analyzing mistakes, learning from them, and moving forward with more clarity. I learned that the wealthy don't succeed because they avoid mistakes, they succeed because they extract lessons from every misstep. Then came what might have been the most unusual lesson: the importance of giving. I had always thought of giving as something you do after you're rich. But my neighbor taught me differently. "Wealth is not just money," he said. "It's influence, knowledge, and generosity. The more you give, the more doors open to you." He showed me his charitable work, not just donations to big organizations, but mentoring young entrepreneurs, helping struggling neighbors, and even investing in small community projects. It wasn't about publicity, it was about impact. I watched him help someone start a small business, offering both money and guidance. Within a year, that person's business was thriving. And the amazing thing, My neighbor didn't lose anything. Instead, he gained loyalty, respect, and opportunities he never anticipated. When you give strategically, it comes back to you tenfold, he told me. Money follows generosity, not the other way around. Over the months, I began implementing these lessons. I started budgeting carefully, tracking my expenses, and looking for opportunities to invest, even small ones. I read books he recommended, journals and biographies of self-made entrepreneurs. I began to wake up earlier, not because anyone told me to, but because I saw the results in his life. By the time I turned 25, I wasn't rich, not in the flashy sense. But I had something far more valuable: a mindset built for wealth, discipline, and growth. I had cultivated habits that would compound over the next decade, giving me options and freedom most of my peers didn't have. Looking back, I realized that the lessons from my rich neighbor weren't just about money. They were about thinking differently, acting intentionally, and valuing the things that truly matter. Make your money work for you, don't just work for money. Build habits that compound over time. Discipline beats motivation. Treat failures as lessons, not setbacks. Give strategically. Wealth grows faster when it's shared. Track your life to become aware of wasted time and resources. These aren't just tips. They're a philosophy. And while I didn't understand everything at first, living by them gradually reshaped my life. By observing him, I realized that wealth isn't a destination, it's a lifestyle. And the sooner you adopt that mindset, the sooner you set yourself up for freedom, choice, and real success. I often tell my viewers this: don't just chase money blindly. Learn how to think like someone who has it. Study their habits, their mindset, and their approach to life. Because before I turned 25, my rich neighbor taught me something that no school, no course, and no amount of hustling could ever teach. Wealth starts in the mind long before it shows up in your bank account. And that is exactly what changed everything for me, and what can change everything for you too.